Measuring Economic, Environmental and Social Impacts presented by Nabila Shuhada, Siti Nur Akila, Siti Najiha, Nurul Aini, and Muhammad Sufyan.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Nabila Shuhada and I'll be the first presenter. I'm going to talk about the introductions for this topic, measuring economic, environmental and social impact. Applying sustainability principle to reporting and management decision making requires the identification and management of environmental, social and economic impact. Environmental performance refers to an impact of an organization's activity on the environment, including natural systems such as land, air, and water, as well as people and living organisms. Next is social performance, which is referred to the impact of an organization's activity on society, including the broader community, employee, customer, and supplier. Next is economic performance. Measures of an organization's economic performance include financial measures such as profit-based measure and cost performance. It can also include broader measure of economic impact such as the organization impact on the broader economy and the organization's financial relationship with the government. Many people are familiar with environmental impact such as contamination of water, air pollution, and the degradation of mining sites. However, economic and social impact may be difficult to identify. By using indicator, can evaluate the impact of the organization's activities on stakeholders outside the organization. For example, through donation and community investment, payment to or from government, spending on local supplier and labor practices. Example for social impact such as increase or decrease in rate of unemployment or alleviating poverty. For economic impact, increase in capital goods, labor force, technology, and human capital. Bear in mind, many of these impacts cannot be measured in quantitative ways. Therefore, qualitative information is needed. It can be challenging to recognize and report many economic, environmental, and social impact because first, future ecologies and social issues are not always known. A core principle of sustainable development is to improve human well-being and to sustain this improvement over time. But the consequences of climate change and the growing demand for energy and resources are making this objective more challenging. Second is many costs and benefits are external to the organization. Many economists consider technical externalities to be market deficiencies, and this is the reason people advocate for government intervention to curb negative externalities through taxation and regulation. And lastly, many costs and benefits are difficult to measure in financial terms, which is why qualitative measures are required.
Assalamualaikum and greetings. I dedicate to Madam Aisha and also my fellow viewers. My name is Siti Nur Akila binti Muhammad and now I will proceed with the next part of this presentation, which involving the future ecological and social issues as how actually environment will give impact, either positive or negative, towards the future. Future generations are uncertain about which features of the environment and society will be appreciated. It is possible that today's work habits and operations will have long-term economic, environmental and social consequences that we cannot predict right now. Developing and cultivating of the GM crops is one of the examples. This opens up a lot of business prospects for a lot of companies, while many scientists believe that these crops will have no long-term negative effects on the environment or the people that consume them. The long-term implications are still unknown. Referring to the example that I mentioned before this, I think most of you do not know much on what is actually GM crop. Thus, I will share with all of you a little bit information regarding these GM crops. So basically, this GM crop is a technology which involves inserting DNA into the genome of an organization as in order for them to produce a GM plant, which is new DNA is being transferred into the plant cell. Usually, The cells are grown in tissue culture where they develop into plants. So the seeds produced by these plants will inherit the new DNA. So basically, there are three largest acreage of the GM crops, which are corn, soybeans, and cotton. Therefore, I hope by sharing this channel information regarding this GM crop will enhance your understanding and increase your knowledge. I think that's all from me. Thank you very much for lending your ears and I really appreciate it. Then I will hand over these presentations to the next presenter, Siti Najriha, to proceed with these presentations.
Thank you to Siti Akila. My name is Najiha and you guys will be with me and we will further discussing on the next subtopic, which is external impact on organization. We will highlight our measured and forgotten environmental and social costs. Do you guys wonder what are the costs related to external impact to organization? So, the first cost measure we will look on is collect and dispose waste. The cost forgotten is long-term cost to society of dumping waste. The second cost measure is cost of control system to minimize and discharges into rivers and emissions into air. The cost forgotten is damage to water sources and air resulted from legal discharges and emissions. The second cost forgotten is impact on neighbors' health. Next cost measure is packaging cost. The cost forgotten is cost to customer and society of disposing unwanted packaging. Next cost measure that we will look on together is compensation paid to estate of an employee killed at a plant. The cost forgotten relating to this issue is, of course, it will become a devastating loss to employees' family and friends. It will also affect the damaging morale of employees. Last cost measure is cost of new wastewater treatment plant. The cost forgotten in this case is poor corporate image as the wastewater is dumped. That's all for my part. Thank you very much for listening and participating. Next, I will pass to the next presenter to continue with the presentation.
Thank you, Naziha, for the presentation. And next, I will proceed about the next topic, which is the difficulty of measuring costs and natural capital. Without further ado, let's take a look at the next slide. In this slide, we will be discussing about the reason why there is a difficulty of measuring costs in terms of economic, environmental, and social impacts in financial terms. Usually, we will have problems to measure economic, environmental, and social impacts in physical measures. However, when it comes to financial measures, it might be complex to identify this in financial. There are the reasons why they are difficult to measure in cost. For economic, it is complex due to economic value is subjective and dependent on a person's intentions, where it cannot be directly measured. But for environmental, it is a technical problem that contribute their difficulties in measuring pricing environment and climate-related risks. For social impacts, there is a problem of time to estimate of how much good an action will bring benefit to many years in the future, relative to how much it will cost to implement it now. After we discussing about the difficulties of measuring economic, environmental, and social impacts in financial measure, now we are going to look at the meaning of natural capital. So, natural capital is the stock of capital that derive from natural resources such as biological diversity and ecosystems, as well as derived from geological resources such as fossil fuels and mineral deposits. It gives us the ecosystem products and services that underpin our economy and provide inputs or indirect benefits to business. Organizations' impact on natural capital is material enough to be reported externally, where the company have to disclose whatever activities that they use the natural resources in order to acknowledge the stakeholders. The external reporting involves the valuation of natural capital and estimating the organization impact on that capital. That is all for me, and I will give this presentation to Muhammad Sufiat to explain uh, further about the history of Puma that relates to this topic. Thank you.
Thank you Nurul Aini. I am Muhammad Sufyan and I will be presenting to you guys about the real life case of Puma regarding measuring economic, environmental and social impact. Puma is a company that known to be one of the world's leading sport lifestyle company known for its footwear, apparel and the accessories. Then, in the year 2011, Puma became the first major company to publish an environmental profit and loss account in their report, which placed a value on the environmental impact caused by them and its supply chain partner Fry. According to the report, in 2010, while the net profit was 202 million euros, Puma and Fry had environmental impact value at 145 million euros. In the Puma report, the value on environmental impact highlighted three key areas. The first one is where reduction in resource usage could be achieved, and the second one is the potential area for innovation, and the last one is the supply chain risk could be better managed. Now, when a company preparing an environmental profit and loss account, an analysis is certainly needed. The analysis made by Puma looked at all the aspects of the supply chain, starting from the raw material production, such as cotton farming and oil drilling, to the processing, involving leather tanneries and the chemical industry and oil refining. The biggest environmental impact that we can look is at their account where 35% of the greenhouse gas emission and 43% of water consumption occur at the point where the raw material derived from the natural resources, such as in the cultivation and harvesting of cotton and in the cattle ranching. Many people at that time curious why Puma published that kind potentially damaging report. Actually, the company want to raise some awareness to the current business model that is already outdated, and the organization need to explore new and innovative ways to work with their suppliers. Their agenda also to change the accounting for natural capital from simply a framework to a quantifiable concept. When Puma published their environmental profit and loss account, from economic perspective, they also published the economic valuation on the greenhouse gas emission. Puma's report also gave an impact in Australia. The National Australia Bank became much interested in valuing and managing the natural capital, making them to become one of the first two banks to sign for the Natural Capital Declaration. The bank also has stated that valuing and managing natural capital is important for the sustainability of the business and economic system. From social perspective, we know that this kind of report creating an awareness on how immense value of values nature service that are currently being taken for granted. From there, the report made by Puma has made several companies consider on how they can apply similar analysis in their own organization. For example, following steps taken by Puma, Novo Nordisk, a pharmaceutical firm, became the second major company that published environmental profit and loss account in their report. That's all from me. Now we have reached at the end of our presentation. I want to say thank you for taking your time in listening our presentation.